Hey, everybody. Welcome to another deep dive with us. We love to pick a topic and really get into it.
Yeah.
And today's topic is psychological resilience. And
Ooh, that's a good one.
it is a good one. So we've got excerpts from the Wikipedia article on psychological resilience to kind of guide our conversation today. And, this is something that's so important these days
Yeah, for sure.
for everybody. I think we all kind of have a general sense of what resilience is, but maybe we should just start with like a, basic definition.
Yeah,
And then we can sort of unpack it.
sure.
So the Wikipedia article defines psychological resilience as the ability to cope mentally and emotionally with a crisis or to return to pre-crisis status quickly. Now,
Mm.
I don't know about you, but that definition to me feels
It's a little dry.
it's a little dry.
Yeah,
It's a little like
big spooky.
yeah.
Yeah.
So let's unpack it a little bit.
Yeah, let's get into it.
What's it really about?
Yeah.
Why is it important? And what are some of the things we can do to actually cultivate more resilience in our lives?
Yeah, I think it's more than just bouncing back. There's
Yeah.
something deeper there.
Absolutely.
Like this idea of thriving even after facing difficulty.
Right?
Like you said, it's something we all need. And the really cool thing is it's a skill that can be learned and strengthened.
Okay. So
It's like building a muscle.
Yeah.
The more you work at it,
I love that analogy.
the stronger it gets.
The more you work at it, the stronger it gets.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm already feeling more resilient
Me too.
just thinking about it. Um, so one of the things that really struck me when I was reading this article was the story of psychologist Emmy Werner.
Mm-hmm.
And she did this incredible 40-year study of Hawaiian children.
Hmm.
And these kids faced incredible adversity. We're talking poverty, family struggles, you name it, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, all the odds stacked against them.
But here's the amazing thing. Even in those incredibly difficult circumstances, a significant number of them didn't just survive, they thrived.
Wow.
They went on to lead successful and fulfilling lives.
That's
What was their secret? How do they do it?
Well, her research revealed some key insights into what contributed to their resilience.
Okay.
One of the biggest factors, this makes so much sense to me, was having strong, supportive relationships.
Oh, interesting.
Even in the face of hardship, these kids had people they could rely on. Family members, teachers, mentors.
So they had that support system.
They did.
Yeah.
People who believed in them and gave them a sense of belonging.
So it's not just about being tough on your own. It's about having a network of people to help you through the tough times.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it.
But what about the kids who didn't have that support?
Right.
Were they just doomed?
Not necessarily. Another important factor was having a sense of purpose,
Okay.
a belief that their lives had meaning and value.
Okay.
This could be anything from a passion for learning to a strong spiritual faith.
So something that gave them a reason to keep going.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
The sense of purpose gave them something to strive for, something to hold on to, even when things were tough.
I love that rubber band analogy that we were talking about earlier. It perfectly captures how we can be stretched by challenges but not break.
Mm.
And what you're saying is
Right.
having that strong support network and a sense of purpose, or like adding extra layers of rubber to that band,
Yes.
making it even more resilient.
Exactly. It's like weaving a safety net around yourself.
Yeah.
The more support and purpose you have in your life, the stronger that net becomes.
I love that. That's a great
It's-
visual.
And even if you fall, it's there to catch you.
So if resilience is something we can build,
Mm.
what are some of the ways we can strengthen those muscles
Mm-hmm.
and weave that safety net?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. The Wikipedia article delves into some fascinating techniques and strategies.
Okay.
But before we get into those specifics, I think it's helpful to explore how resilience actually works in our lives.
Yeah.
It's not just about surviving tough times.
Right.
It's about adapting, learning, and even thriving because of them.
Okay, so how do we make that shift from just getting by to actually using those challenges to propel ourselves forward?
Right.
That's a great question.
Yeah. How do we do that?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. We're going to find out right after this break. So how do we make that shift from just getting by to actually using those challenges to propel ourselves forward?
Well, it's interesting. When we face adversity, most of us tend to react in one of three ways. either with anger and aggression,
Okay.
or by shutting down emotionally,
Right.
or by acknowledging and processing our emotions in a healthy way.
Okay.
And it's that third approach, that ability to really deal with those tough emotions without letting them control us, that seems to be at the heart of resilience.
Yeah, it's like not pretending that the feelings aren't there, but not letting them run the show either.
Exactly.
It's about recognizing them, working through them, and actually using them as fuel to move forward.
Right. Resilient individuals, they don't pretend their feelings aren't there.
Yeah.
They recognize them, they work through them, and then they actually use them as fuel to move forward.
That makes me think about those times when I've tried to just ignore or suppress negative emotions, and it never really works out well. They always seem to find a way to bubble back up,
Oh, yeah.
often in not so great ways.
Right. They always come back to bite you.
Exactly.
And this is where some of the techniques that are mentioned in the Wikipedia article come into play.
Yeah.
One that I found particularly interesting is cognitive behavioral therapy.
Oh, yeah. CBT.
CBT for short.
I've heard of CBT,
Yeah.
but I'm not really sure I understand exactly what it is.
Yeah, so it's all about changing how we think and act.
Okay.
It's like rewiring our brains to be more positive and more effective.
So you're actually changing your thought patterns.
Exactly. For example, instead of saying to yourself, I'm terrible at this, you might try reframing it as, I'm learning and I'll get better with practice.
Oh, so it's like shifting your perspective, focusing on the things that you can control, rather than dwelling on the negatives.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's a really powerful technique.
But is it really that simple? Can just changing our thoughts really make us more resilient?
Well, it's not always easy, but it can be incredibly powerful. Our thoughts have a huge impact on our feelings and behaviors.
Well, sort of.
And CBT helps us to kind of break those negative thought patterns and replace them with more helpful ones.
So it's like we're weeding out the bad thoughts and planting some new seeds.
Yeah, exactly. Like creating a more fertile ground for resilience to grow.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so CBT is one tool in the resilience toolbox.
Yes.
What are some others?
Well, another one that's highlighted in the article is mindfulness,
Mindfulness.
which is all about being present in the moment and paying attention to your thoughts and feelings without judgment.
Okay.
Practices like meditation can be really helpful for developing mindfulness.
So it's about quieting the mind and just being.
Yes, exactly. And, it's not about emptying your mind. It's more about observing your thoughts and feelings without getting swept away by them.
That reminds me of something you mentioned earlier about how resilience isn't just about individual grit, but also about the support systems and resources around us.
Right.
It's like even with all the best CBT and mindfulness techniques in the world, we still need those connections and that sense of belonging to truly thrive.
Absolutely.
Like we're not meant to do this alone.
We're not islands.
Right.
We're social creatures, and our relationships play a vital role in our resilience.
Okay.
Think about it. Who are the people you can turn to when things get tough?
Yeah.
Those relationships, those connections, they're like shock absorbers.
That's salt in the blue.
They help us navigate life's bumps and potholes.
And speaking of shock absorbers, some of the research mentioned in the article really blew my mind. It's incredible how resilience can impact so many aspects of our lives. We often think of it as mental strength, but it turns out it can even affect our physical health.
Absolutely. The article mentions studies showing that older adults with high levels of resilience have a decreased risk of death or difficulty walking after hip surgery. Yeah, pretty amazing, right?
That's huge.
Yeah, it makes you realize that resilience isn't just some fluffy, feel-good concept.
Yeah.
It has real, tangible benefits for our overall well-being.
And the good news is that resilience is something we can actively cultivate and strengthen.
Absolutely.
The Developing and Sustaining Resilience section of the Wikipedia article offers some great tips, and some of them go hand in hand with what we've already discussed.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, nurturing your social connections is a big one. Make time for the people who lift you up and provide a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
Even small acts of kindness and connection can make a huge difference.
And don't forget about the power of positive emotions. Finding the good in challenging situations, cultivating a sense of humor, actively seeking out joy.
Yeah.
These all contribute to a more resilient outlook.
Right. It's about focusing on what you can control.
Yeah.
And choosing to see the good, even when things are tough.
Speaking of different perspectives, the article touches on how the understanding and expression of resilience can vary across cultures.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Oh, yeah. I remember reading about that. It's so interesting how something as fundamental as resilience can be viewed and experienced in such diverse ways.
Absolutely. For example, the Chinese word for resilience translates to rebound.
Okay,
while in Greek it means bounce or cheerfulness.
interesting.
And in Finnish, there's the word sisu, which encompasses this incredible blend of grit, determination, and courage.
So we've got rebound, bounce, curefulness, and sisu.
Yeah,
It's like a whole spectrum of resilience.
exactly. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
It's like we're seeing resilience through a kaleidoscope, with each culture adding its own unique color and perspective.
Yeah.
It really highlights how there's no one right way to be resilient.
Exactly what works for one person or culture might not work for another. The important thing is to find what resonates with you, what helps you navigate the ups and downs of life and come out stronger on the other side.
So it's more about the journey than the destination.
I think so.
It's not about achieving some perfect state of resilience, but about constantly learning, adapting, and growing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that brings us to another interesting point from the article. Measuring resilience. It turns out there's no single gold standard for assessing resilience,
That's right.
which makes sense considering all the different factors involved.
Right, and the cultural variations we've talked about.
Exactly.
But even though it's complex, researchers have developed some interesting tools for trying to measure it. The article mentions scales like the ego resiliency scale and the hardiness scale, which look at different aspects of resilience.
It's almost like those personality quizzes you see online, but with a scientific basis. Do you think those scales can actually be helpful?
Well, I think they can be useful for gaining self-awareness and identifying areas where you might want to focus your efforts. But it's important to remember they're just tools, not definitive judgments.
Right.
Your resilience is ultimately reflected in how you live your life, not in a score on a test.
Okay, so as we rack up this deep dive into psychological resilience,
Yeah.
let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned. We've seen that resilience is a process, not a fixed trait. It's something we can all develop and strengthen over time,
Right.
regardless of our background or circumstances.
Exactly.
And we've learned that resilience is influenced by a whole web of factors, both internal and external, from our own self-talk and coping mechanisms to the quality of our relationships and the resources available to us. It's a complex interplay of elements.
It really is.
But perhaps most importantly, we've discovered that resilience isn't just about bouncing back. It's about growing and thriving because of our experiences.
Yes.
It's about finding meaning and purpose even in the midst of challenges.
I love that.
So what does this all mean for you? What one small step can you take today to build your resilience? Maybe it's practicing some positive self-talk, reaching out to a friend, or exploring some of those mindfulness techniques we talked about.
Yeah, those are all great ideas.
Every step, no matter how small, can make a difference.
Absolutely. And remember, you don't have to do it alone. There are resources and support systems out there to help you along the way.
We encourage you to continue exploring this fascinating topic and find what works best for you on your own journey of resilience building. Remember, the power to thrive in the face of challenges lies within each and every one of us.